my wife and I and another couple were up in Lake Placid, and Steve was like, "How do I name a beer?" I'm like, "Come up with something fun and interesting, and we'll use it." So during the night, he started talking about how they're in, I think, Tunisia, there's goats that climb trees. I'm like, I don't believe you. Like, go on the internet, and there it is, goats climbing trees.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you know what? That's a great beer name.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to All Beer Inside. We are continuing our Syracuse adventure. Today we are in North Syracuse, New York, and joining me is David and Eric of Boar Craft Brewery.
Hello.
Thanks.
Hi. Thank you very much for hosting us today and speaking about your brewery, the beers, and how the festival went the other week. So, or
pleasure.
day, technically.
Last night.
Thanks for stopping in.
Yeah. So guys, what's the beer story? What brought you two together and create Full Boar brand?
So we have been friends since 1999. We were working together, actually at a bank just down the road, probably about a mile down the road. And we were both into home brewing and barbecue. So a couple common themes, became friends. I don't know, we used to do competition barbecue as a hobby.
Cool.
I did that for a couple years. And while we were doing that, Eric got into home brewing even more. So, you know, instead of doing the extract stuff like we were doing back in the 90s, he was, you know, whole grain and...
Yeah, grain glass type of stuff.
Yeah, real brewing.
Yeah, so in, I don't know what year it was, but we moved over from, when we first met, we did a lot of extract brewing, you know, just dumping cans and
They all tasted exactly the same.
yeah, so after a while, you know, when
matter what I made.
we started doing the barbecue competitions, I built myself a little brewing system out of Gatorade coolers and turkey fryers and things like that, and went all grain. And then we realized, you know what, we can control a little better the quality of what we're producing. So started bringing those beers to our barbecue competitions and giving them away for free. You know, we'd bring 3 or 4 kegs of beer to a barbecue competition.
Yeah, I mean, the barbecue is just, I mean, both of them were hobbies, but it was an reason to get out in the backyard and not have to do chores and listen to my wife.
You can edit that part out.
I know. We got a friend who's gotten into like, he's hardcore, like crazy smoker. He got himself like one of those Komodos and stuff. Yeah. And it's like, he was never into this, and all of a sudden it exploded. Like, there's something about barbecue and beer that's just a perfect fit.
Oh yeah, so. Absolutely.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, we're still into barbecue, big time, but we don't do the competitions anymore. Who has time?
No,
for sure. Especially, there's more. I feel there's more and more. Like the scene in Montreal, there was barely anything at one point, and now they're all over the place. Yeah. So it's crazy. But speaking of the beer portion, you brought me out some beers to try here. What are we going to be starting with?
So the first one is it's called Goats Climbing Trees.
Okay.
It is a Czech Pils.
Dry hopped. It's a dry hop Czech Pils. Dry hop this with a little Citra after the initial hop, so just to add a little extra. So
what's the ABV on this?
4.2,
4.2, 4.3.
Light crushable.
Yeah.
Awesome. As we do, gentlemen, a toast.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Yep, barbecue beer.
Yeah.
Sitting down.
Yeah, nice, clean.
Throw some in the smoker.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Have a few. Hopefully, I don't catch up with the smoker.
The cook always got better the more you drank.
Yeah. I might not have a palate anymore, but awesome. Full Boar, pretty unique name. Where's that? I mean, I'm guessing because of the barbecue stuff, but why?
So yeah, part of it was barbecue.
Okay.
We were both in banking finance. We went through a bunch of different names, you know, when we were trying to come up with our barbecue team name was Slow and Low.
Okay.
And it was a crosscut of a pig, and we wanted to include that somehow into our name and logo. And our first brewery name was Flying Pig. The idea that we'd own a brewery when pigs fly, kind of thing.
Yep.
And the pig was going to be a piggy bank because we came from finance. But I went to a beer bar one day in Washington, D.C., and I opened up the menu, and there was like 9 flying animal breweries. So I'm like, you know what, maybe we got to go a different route.
Yeah.
So we started playing around. Eric found some reference to Mocus, who is the Celtic god of the boar hunt.
Okay.
I said, no, we are not calling ourselves Mocus.
Mocus was a little...
But then we kind of got focused on boar.
Okay.
And started playing around with that. And we went with Full Boar because this really happened fast. We had our first conversation in, I think it was March 1st of 2015. I got a phone call from him, real serious. Like, I want to meet you for a beer. I want to talk to you about something. All right. Oh boy. Who's pregnant?
You did what with my wife?
So we went to a bar and had a beer. He's like, I want to open a brewery. And I want you to be my partner. And I'm like, what the hell do we know about opening a brewery? Nothing. But I'm like, sure, why not? Because in my mind, I figured we'd spend 6 to 8 months sitting around, getting out of work early, having beers, talking about opening a brewery, and then, I always need another reason to go drink somewhere.
Little did he know we'd be signing a lease.
Yeah, so we signed a lease
3 months later.
Yeah, in June of 2015.
Wow.
And we were open in less than a year. So we opened June of 2016. So we went full bore.
How was New York State with kind of allowing you guys a little freedom of pickup for food or beer and then creating the patio? Like, how?
During COVID?
Yeah, during COVID.
New York State was great.
Okay.
I mean, they had some silly rules like everybody else that you had to serve food with your beer. Because of our license as a manufacturer, though, we were able to get by with charging for bags of chips or things like that. So it wasn't, for us, it wasn't that difficult of a problem. But
we were allowed throughout the pandemic to do takeout beer for the most part. I don't know how long we were actually closed.
We were closed from March 16th to June 15th.
Yeah, so
so that during that time we could only do to-go beer. So we did crowlers, growlers. We started canning at that point, and that's really what kind of pushed us into canning because we needed to find any way we possibly could to get beer out the door.
Right.
All in all, though, like getting together and deciding like full bore's happening, what were some roadblocks and difficulties you guys ran into prior to everything happening?
Honestly, not many.
Okay.
It was pretty smooth. I mean, our licensing went smooth. The village, North Syracuse, really didn't give us any problems setting up. We had to change some zoning with the county and more. That was more just waiting.
Okay.
The county zoning board met like once a month, so you had to wait until they met to rule on it. Same thing with the village. They meet codes once a month. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we got lucky because we've heard some horror stories from different breweries, especially in parts of Syracuse, where permitting and just things. We kind of sailed through it. I mean, we could have opened sooner, just we were working full-time jobs, and it was nights and weekends. We pretty much did everything ourselves in here except for the plumbing, the electrical, and drywall.
Yeah.
That's things that would kill me. So.
And you mentioned, though, you do have a full-time brewer now.
Yeah, so that was one of the things. So, man, did we not know what we were doing when we started.
That was our biggest roadblock, was brewing.
Yeah.
I mean, we went from brewing in our garage. I have pictures that pop up on my phone all the time of my feet staring at a turkey kettle with his feet next to it.
I was really there more just to drink the beer, finish off last batch before the new batch.
I guess the snow to try and cold crash it.
And to scale up from 5 or 10 gallons that you're brewing in your front yard to 93 and a half gallons or whatever we're at was a big step. And it's also it's if we wanted to put out a good quality product, and it's really hard to dump 93 gallons of beer down the drain when you're just opened and you have to pay your rent. And, so that was our biggest roadblock, and we found that I was the head brewer to start, but to try to brew and work in the tap room and do all the other things that we had to do as owners just didn't make a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. Well, we couldn't keep up. I mean, we have 16 taps, and Facebook memories shows me all the time when we would have 2 of our beers on tap because, for whatever reason. We brew 3 times a week to keep up. We're generally putting on a couple new beers every week. We cycle through a lot of different styles and beers. I like a lot of variety. I always like variety when I go into a brewery. Mm-hmm. We've made 180 different beers over the 6 years that we've been open.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Some of them will never see the light of day.
Yeah, most of them will never see the light of day.
Others are, like, oh my God, I forgot all about it. Somebody remind me, Imperial Sin. We do an Imperial Oatmeal Stout with cinnamon. We do it every year, and I completely forgot about it in our brew schedule this year.
Yeah.
Like, when's that coming out? I'm like, oh, damn.
Maybe in February.
I mean,
you mentioned it.
From the sound of it, like, the locals really stepped up and were coming by during the pandemic, and they're like, look, instead of my regular 6, I'm going to get 12 today.
Our regulars, our Mug Club members, we had a great amount of support. Friends, family, everybody was really trying to make sure we stuck around. Because I remember in January when I heard that like Wuhan had shut down in China. I'm like, Eric, they just shut a whole city down in China.
Yeah.
Like, what happens if it pops over here? Like, what the
You're
hell
like,
are we going to do?
We're not. It's not gonna. It's not gonna.
And when you heard about it in January, there was a good chance it was already here.
Yeah.
But it is what it is, and as long as guys like yourselves are still producing great local products and supporting local businesses, and you have a mug club, I'm assuming you also do a lot of charity work as well.
Absolutely.
So
We do. We've had a few different charities that we support. I mean, you want to give back to your community as much as possible, as much as you can afford.
Yeah.
But it's important.
Yeah, you can't give to every charity.
Yeah, for sure.
We have so many requests for donations, and so we try to pinpoint the charities that we really want to make a difference in, and we hit those as much as we can.
Right. So something that might mean we've brewed a couple beers. We do one for Griffin's Guardians, which is a childhood cancer charity. We brewed a beer called Griffin's Golden Ale, or the proceeds from the sale of that went to the charity. We have it on tap right now, a beer called Real Convo, to benefit the American Suicide Prevention organization. Proceeds from that will go to them. So kind of pick and choose things that we want to impact.
Yeah. No, you can't bankrupt yourself trying to support charities, right?
No.
It's unrealistic. Speaking of the mug club, what made you guys decide to have a mug club?
We had conversations about mug club. I just thought it'd be something fun and a way because people like to have something that shows that they belong.
Right. I also think we learned over the first couple of years that I know personally coming into the brewery, I didn't ever think of a brewery as a local hangout spot for people. You'd think people would come in, they'd have a flight, fill a growler, and then leave. Well, we developed, just a group of regulars, and they grew from 5 regulars to 10 regulars to all of a sudden 50 people would come in on a regular basis, and with the mug club we get to, obviously they sign up for it and they pay for it. They feel like they're part of the brewery, and they are 100%.
And they're some of our greatest advocates out there, and will promote us to their friends.
Without the mug club and our regulars, we would be closed by now. There's no doubt that, with that support.
What's beer number 2 I got here?
Okay, so beer number 2 is called I Am the King.
Okay.
It is a double dry hopped, double IPA. So we do a fantasy football league here at Full Boar, and the winner every year gets to name a beer.
Okay.
So this came from Zach Marchant, who won 2 years ago.
Okay.
And if you ever saw Game of Thrones, there's a part where King Joffrey says, "I am the king."
Yeah.
So that's when he won. That's what he texted me.
Let's do a toast.
Cheers. And you're gonna. I don't remember what's in this one, but
there's 5 hops. We have Cascade, Centennial are the base New York hops, but then we're looking. I think there's Ariana. There's a little Citra, Motueka, I believe.
Okay. Yeah, because like for my palate, I'm definitely getting the Citra.
Yeah.
So this is incredibly balanced though. It's not like a crazy hot bomb, which a lot of people, as much as I love Alchemist, I prefer something over this, but I will still pound back a couple of Alchemist beers, no problem. It's, I like to spread the love. And whenever that was the frustrating part for myself as a beer drinker. It's like, what do you mean I can't go to Vermont or New York State for beer anymore? I'm like, yeah, but I can support everybody at the same time.
There's a touch of lactose in there too.
It's a little lactose for some body.
Yeah. 8-ish%, I'm guessing.
8.2.
8.2.
That's where you can tell a good brewer when he masks that like crazy alcohol. And you're just like, what do you mean I'm drinking a bunch of 8% beers? That's why I'm drunk.
My sweet spot for ABV is generally in that 5.5, 6.5 range. So you'll probably find, most of our IPAs are somewhere in that. We don't do a whole heck of a lot of doubles, triples, things like that. I mean, we always have a couple higher ABV beers on tap as part of our selection. But for me personally, I like the kind of middle of the road.
Yeah. This one's good though.
Yeah.
A little soft mouthfeel.
Everybody's different. We got a friend who hates IPAs.
Sure.
Unless I bring an IPA with lactose and he loves them. I'm like, so where's going on here? Like,
Yeah, well, IPA can mean so many different things.
Yeah.
The days of the, overhopped English dry IPAs, you go to a store and try and find an English IPA.
Yes.
Right.
You guys have some pretty unique beer names and some very adventurous labeling from what I can see. How'd that all come about? Is this kind of just throw darts at the board or
yeah, so like Goats Climbing Trees, my wife and I and another couple were up in Lake Placid, and Steve was like, how do I name a beer? I'm like, come up with something fun and interesting and we'll use it. So during the night, he started talking about how they're in, I think, Tunisia, there's goats that climb trees. I'm like, I don't believe you. Like, go on the internet and there it is, goats climbing trees.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you know what? That's a great beer name. I don't know, you just try to have fun with it.
The names are, it's always a little bit of an adventure to come up with a name.
What about Statesman, Eric? How did we get that name?
Well, Statesman, I went to a college called Hobart College in Geneva, New York, where I played lacrosse, and we're the Hobart Statesman. Okay. So the number on the can is
it's his jersey,
my college number. We are actually in the process of trying to figure out how to get more into distribution, and that's going to be one of our flagship beers that we're putting out.
You have to ship it out to Canada since lacrosse is our second national sport behind hockey.
We have a lot of Canadians that came down to the U.S. and I played against a ton of Canadians.
Yeah. Do you guys get a lot of Canadian visitors here in Syracuse, do you find?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, more now, of course. You had about 2 years where you didn't see any.
Yeah.
Right.
But sure, yeah.
I know the brewery by the mall, they get a ton.
Yeah.
I think he said that's, other than Syracuse, the Canadian customers are their biggest customers.
Yeah, it's funny when we were finally allowed back to the U.S., well, health-wise, we were allowed back into the U.S., and it's like, go to Vermont, and I'm like, hey, what's it like getting Canadians again? Like, I never thought I'd miss the French accent. Right. It's nice to be able to come back and forth and stuff again. I'm personally a big fan of New York State and Vermont State beers. So it's nice to be able to get them and bring back what I'm legally allowed to after 48 hours without a border guard pulling me over and searching my car. So fantastic. Have you guys done many collabs with any other breweries or restaurants or local farms?
We've done a few. I mean, Buried Acorn, we did a collaboration with them on a beer called 1000 Tiny Michael Jackson's Breakdancing in My Mouth, Belgian blonde ale.
Yep.
I did not name that beer. That was all Tim, sure. I like the collaborations where every brew basically takes the same beer, makes a recipe, and then you'll get people that want to go and try all the beers at the different places to see how
everybody's beer is a little different.
I think those are fun. We've done a couple with all the breweries in Syracuse. One was called Autonomous Collective. Old Monty Python, Holy Grail reference. And it's fun. I mean, it's fun to get together because a lot of times, you see guys at Brewfest and things like that, but otherwise we're just so focused on
gotta keep the business
doing
going.
what we're doing that it's rare for us to all get together.
Right. Well, we've done a collaboration with Middle Ages. I think is one of the original breweries in Syracuse. They've become pretty good friends with us. We've done Stoutbeard. We've done a couple.
Sure.
They're a tiny little brewery that's actually closed right now, but reopening in a couple weeks.
Okay.
Right over in Liverpool.
Bigger place, I'm guessing.
Bigger place, nicer place. He was in a building that he had to transition out of that building, and it's been a mess for him the last couple of years. But he's kind of regrouped, and he's reopening. I believe soft opening Wednesday reopening the following Wednesday.
That's good. So you kept it going despite all the difficulties, right? And you guys did too, despite we didn't have a patio. Now they let us have one. So
we have a pig pen. We don't have a patio.
We call it the pig pen.
Yeah. Amazing. So we're just coming off the Syracuse or the New York State Craft Brewers Festival in Syracuse. How is that association help you guys?
So lobbying, really. I mean, they are our voice in Albany. They've helped pass legislation that is beneficial to the brewers. Case in point, back in pre-2012, breweries could not serve flights or pints. You couldn't sell. You could do free tastings and then sell beer to go, which really forced breweries to be a production commercial brewery. You didn't have places like this. I think there was 47 or 60 breweries in New York State at that point.
There were only 2 in Syracuse.
2012, they passed the Farm Brewery Act. which allows us to charge for flights and pints and basically open up tap rooms.
Okay.
And cash flow your business that way. We're a 3-barrel brew house. I mean, we're tiny in comparison. But without the ability to do this, there's no way we would have been able to get going.
Yeah. So they're clearly very supportive. How did it feel like, I guess, after the last 2 years of having either toned down or not really a festival at all, like having it back and big?
Oh.
I thought the turnout last night was fantastic.
Yeah. He's got the hangover to show. How he feels about it.
It was that 14% barley one.
Yeah, I had to drive him home.
Yeah.
Well, that was the plan.
Well, last night was, I know they sold out last night, which I know last year they had a scaled down version, and the year before they didn't have any. But I know they sold out yesterday, and you could tell it was great to have everybody back out. And it's always great to have all New York breweries, which is, this festival is all New York. And everybody knows each other.
We ran out of our porter, and we almost ran out of the IPA. So,
yeah.
That's, when you can unload all your beer at a festival, it's a good thing.
Do you find it helps getting new eyes on you guys? Like
Sure.
people who are, let's say, from Buffalo who don't really travel to Syracuse, all of a sudden they're like, whoa. Because I understand it hops locations. It's in Albany. It's in Buffalo.
So they have one in, I think, 4 different cities. Buffalo, Albany, Syracuse, and then somewhere downstate. I don't know if it's Long Island or... I think it's at Belmont, actually.
Is it?
The racetrack.
Yeah.
You get to ride horses if you drink.
Everybody's trying to ride these championship $1 million horses. No, I mean, we were there, last night, and everybody seemed great and respectful. This girl walking around in a birthday sash, and everybody sang her happy birthday.
Yeah.
I feel generally craft beer helps bring people together. And I don't know if you guys have ever had a fight. I'm sure you had, but it's kind of rarer here than it would be at a big bar, like a bar downtown or something. So
we've never had a fight.
Never had a fight. I've had to cut people off.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've thrown one person out.
Yeah.
And that's in 6 years. So I'm sure that's it's never been a problem.
Statistically, that's amazing. So
I mean, we close at 10, so we
that
limit
weeds out some of the.
There's no shots. So all the things that cause problems.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. You guys aren't fully licensed, right? Or do you have hard alcohol as well?
So
cocktails?
we're licensed to sell New York labeled products. So we could have spirits. We choose not to at this point in time. We sell our beer. We sell New York ciders and wine.
Okay.
So we carry Aware Wineries, Vineyards wine here, and 1911 ciders and a couple other different.
I usually like to ask this, because craft beer is still new to some people. You get the classic Bud, Molson, the Bat Blue, for Canada drinker in. I'm assuming the Pilsner is the gateway beer.
Pilsner, or we also do a light lager.
Okay.
That's generally, I had an old timer come in the other day, and he's like, "What do you got that tastes like beer?"
Yeah,
so I'm like,
beer
well,
that tastes
they
like
all
beer.
taste like beer. But why don't we start with these two? And that's generally what I do. I run the tap room, and usually when somebody comes in with that question, I'll either ask, well, what do you drink on what's your normal beer? And that tells me, okay, which direction I'm going. And then I'll give them a couple samples of what's closest to that. And that usually takes care of it.
Have you seen that, the switch change on people?
We've been open 6 years now, so I've definitely seen people that were blonde ale only that are now drinking, stouts, IPAs, and their palates changed, or they've had the ability to try different things. And
I think a lot of maybe not a lot, but a good percentage of our Mug Club people or their spouses started come in, and they were either ordering wine or a blonde ale, or we didn't have the Pilsner when we first started, but and they've graduated up. Now,
and we've also seen the people that were hazy IPAs only, and now they've gone back to they'll drink our Schwartz beer because they just want something.
Right.
Yeah. I'm a huge fan of lagers. So, and I know there's no hiding imperfections in a lager.
Sure.
Right.
So that's when you go to a brewery and you get that right lager, all their beers are going to be on point, fantastic. Right. There's no question about it.
Yep.
Especially the malt profile is just a pain in the butt, and we've hung out with a couple of home brewers, which is where you guys started, and it's I'm just watching them try to brew. I'm like, I don't have the time for the patience.
Right.
I would be a front of house like yourself, but I would hire a brewer and I would just come up with names and stuff if I ever owned a brewery.
That's pretty much what I do.
Yeah.
And don't let me near the tanks.
Yeah. Friends in the area to try. So I'm clearly from out of town, Montreal.
Sure.
Come here, drink a bunch of your beers, buy some cans. Friends in the area, go check out.
So if you're looking for restaurants, things like that, Angry Garlic out in Baldwinsville's got a great tap lineup. They support local breweries, and their food is fantastic.
Brick and Brew is right down the road.
Okay.
I make their house beer for them.
Yep.
They have really good burgers.
They're on their brick oven pizzas.
And pizzas.
I like pizzas.
Yeah.
Fantastic stuff. Other like beer bars, Hopspot. We bring a lot down to them. Other breweries.
I like Buried Acorn. I like
Buried Acorn, Middle Ages, Stout Beard, Freight Yard. If you go to Freight Yard, you can get some of our beers because they serve a lot of our beers.
They got a neat location too.
But really, any of the local breweries we're friends with almost all of them.
Yeah.
We know them all. We used to actually meet every month as a group. The owners and brewers would meet just to discuss what's going on in the industry and what's working and what's not working. And we've always thought that if one of our breweries in Syracuse could get really, really big and generate a lot of hype, that will help all of us.
Yeah.
So if we could help that,
Yeah,
if it was us, that'd be great. But if not,
Yeah.
But if any way, if there, if we all the time, if we're short a bag of grain, or we need yeast, or we need some hops, I can call Isaac in Middle Ages and say, hey, can I borrow a bag of grain, or
we're out of crystal malts, dude. I need help.
Yeah.
So and then I'm assuming he calls. I'm out of these hops. Here you go. So.
Yep. So we share information. We share ingredients. They're one of his guys is fixing a couple of our pumps right now because that's a necessity, and we're short pumps. It's amazing how supportive the industry is, and even though we compete with each other, we still support everybody supports everybody.
You kind of have that poster on the wall right there, support local brewing, and so it's right there. It's support your local guy. So, and as I mentioned, there's no question about it. It should have been, you guys should have been doing it all along.
Sure.
So, it's always good to hear. What's this next beer we got here?
So the next beer is called Just a Porter.
Okay.
And it is just a porter.
I believe I had this at the festival last. I had a few beers at the festival last night, so keeping track was a little difficult.
Yeah, so we served this at the festival last night. We served the previous IPA at the festival last night too. Awesome. But it seems like every porter has something in it.
Yeah.
So we make a chocolate peanut butter porter that is one of our most popular beers. I don't care for it because of the peanut butter aspect of it, and we always have it on tap. And I try not to duplicate too many different styles. So we never have just a base porter on, and I love the base porter. So this is my beer.
I enjoy the wild ones. There's one out of friends of the show out of Barrie, Ontario, Flying Monkeys. They make a triple chocolate yearly stout.
Okay.
And I'm like, it's drinking chocolate milk. It's drinking alkalized chocolate milk at 10%. And that's why I share it with my friends. Because pounding back a magnum of 10% beer, I end up falling asleep on my floor. So it's...
I tend to like the lighter, drier. There is a brewery in Auburn called Prison City. And their brewer makes a beer called Puff Puff Shiv. And it's brewed with Cocoa Puffs. And it is literally like drinking the milk in the cereal bowl when the cereal's all gone. It's so sweet. So like 8 ounces is about the most I could take, but that's really good. Those are one of the weird. There's some weird. I mean, it's fun to make weird beers. But I'm a basic dude.
I mean, why not be adventurous? Like that's the reason that we're visiting breweries. Is I like to see the creations, the wild creations some of you guys create.
Right.
That I'm never going to get back home, or even with the home brewer I know. There's only so much he can make. Like you guys started, and you said literally Gatorade containers and a turkey roaster to where you are now, and having a clearly brewer to help out is a huge thing. So I like to ask this now. I usually have to add this caveat. Somehow magically 2 weeks opens up, and you could take a beercation you've never taken before. Where are you going?
Yeah, I mean, I really want to get to Oktoberfest, which Marzen styles are one of my favorites, but I just think that would be a hell of a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, I like travel. Whenever I travel, we go to breweries. My wife doesn't drink beer, so she's fantastic.
There's the keys.
she carts me around, but I would go anywhere.
I'd like to head out to California too, and drink some West Coast IPAs, and just tour around, see what they're doing out there. I mean, it's kind of strange. You know, I don't travel a ton, but if you go to different states, everything's a little different. You know, you can go to maybe Cleveland, Ohio, and you're not going to find a lot of New England IPAs. Yeah. So it's interesting to see the difference in brewing styles all over. But I would go to California if I couldn't go to Germany.
Yeah.
Colorado.
That's the GABFs there, right? The Great American Beer Festival.
Yeah.
I almost said Great Ontario Beer Festival. I'm like, no, that's in Toronto.
Yeah. Okay.
I forgot to ask this before. Any future collaborations you guys would love to do that you never really thought about doing in, let's say the time opens up, you could make to another state, or there was a collab done via Zoom with 5 breweries in Ontario. Like if you could just collab with kind of anybody, who would that be?
So we were just talking about this. One of my first craft beers I ever had back in the 90s was Pete's Wicked Ale.
Okay.
Pete Wicked Ale, unfortunately they are no longer in business, but it would be fantastic if Pete could find us and brew a beer with us, because that was, definitely one of the beers that got me out of drinking, macro lagers and pilsners, and I love that beer.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple breweries. There's one that, the theme is kind of similar to ours. It's called Butternuts. They make a beer called Pork Slap.
Yeah, we actually tried it. We spoke with them yesterday.
We used to bring to our barbecue competitions the little cans because it had a pig on it.
There's pictures of us somewhere, like with a can of Pork Slap in our hands.
So I think that makes sense for us to do a collaboration with them.
Yeah. It's funny because you mentioned the pig thing. There's Prohibition Pig in Vermont. There's now Speckled Pig in the Saratoga Ballston Spa area of New York. So clearly pigs have something definitely to do with beer. So, what was it? It was like some movie, I think it was the Sherlock Holmes where Robert Downey Jr., like they fermented a poison inside pigs. I'm like, okay, I know they have lots of uses, but generally for me it's pork chops and bacon.
Right? We try not to kill people with our beer.
Yeah.
So far I don't think we have.
Not that we know of.
No one's reported back.
Well, I mean, even then, like you said, you only have to throw one guy once out ever.
Yeah.
I'm sure when you see somebody like kind of questionably walking around, it's like, take an Uber tonight, buddy. Like, don't drive.
I mean, I called cabs for people. We took the keys away from a guy.
Yeah.
I mean, there's
He's driven people home.
Yeah.
Himself.
I mean, you need to repeat customers, right? The last thing is, he's wearing a full bore T-shirt and he got into caused a massive call.
Yeah.
So then that's just negative stuff. Whereas, you're very supportive of your local community and you want your local community to keep coming back no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, we care about our customers.
Yeah.
I mean, without them, we're nothing.
Right.
What's this last beer we got here?
All right, so the last one's a big one. This is, it's called Imperatoria Tenebrious Victoria.
ITV.
We
call it ITV.
Okay.
So we make a base oatmeal stout called Dark Victory. Mm-hmm. And when we decided to make an imperial version of that, trying to figure out a name, I'm like, well, I don't want to call it Imperial Dark Victory because that's boring. So I translated it to Latin.
Okay.
So Imperial Dark Victory is
Imperatoria Tenebrious.
Tenebrious Victoria.
Awesome.
Cheers.
Cheers. This is one of my favorite beers as well.
Awesome. 11%-ish as an imperial.
8, 7, 8, 9.
That's not bad.
So on a 3-barrel system, if we want any kind of yield, we really can't hit those 10, 11 percenters.
That's dangerous. That's because you do not taste that 8%.
Yeah. If we wanted to brew an 11%, we'd probably yield half batch, and it just doesn't make a lot of sense for us to.
Yeah, we are. I mean, we are doing we're doing an imperial. We're shooting for about 10%. For Christmas. It's called Strip Mall Santa, and it's we're in a strip mall.
Label.
It's nutmeg, cinnamon, vanilla, and then we're aging it on cranberries.
Wow.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I'm gonna have to come back after the holidays to try and get one.
Yeah, we just finished that label up this morning. Actually,
Yeah,
we got
it's not finished.
It's not done. We have to do the description.
Do you guys use a local company to print all your labels and stuff?
So, our graphic designer is a postman by day.
Okay.
And he does all of our graphics for us.
Yeah, his name's Rich Corliss. He's a friend of my wife's from high school, and he's a a mailman in Liverpool, and he came in one of the first couple weeks, right?
Yeah.
Right out of the gate, and he's like, "Hey," he submitted a beer label to some brewery in Pennsylvania at one point, and they used his design, and some of the stuff that he comes up with is there's all kinds of hidden things on these labels.
Right.
That's awesome.
That you know,
yeah, so
you
like
don't see
the
unless
I
you're
am
really
the king
looking.
can is my cat, is the because he is the king of the house, and then my son who won the fantasy football, like his face is on the side. The game night is another fantasy football winner, and Josh, his face is one of the puzzle pieces. Hey, you try to have some fun with it.
Yeah.
You know, can't take yourself seriously too much.
You host a bunch of events too. You know, there's beer release nights, there's trivia nights. It's clearly it's get people in to enjoy themselves.
Yeah.
Enjoy a couple of tasty adult beverages. And
Do live music.
Yeah.
We did a commissioned beer for some of our Mug Club members called Tropic Thunder. It is a pineapple mango pilsner coming out Tuesday.
Yeah.
And
It's
actually,
surprisingly delicious. It doesn't
it's
sound
actually
like it would
not
be
bad.
good,
Yeah.
but it's actually not bad.
Loosely based on the movie, I'm guessing.
So these two guys were down in Key West, and they picked up the nicknames Tropic and Thunder. So they wanted a beer, and the beer, I don't have the beer can label with me, but it's the portrait from Step Brothers.
Okay.
With Will Ferrell and
Yeah.
the other dude. It's hilarious.
That's great.
So, but we like to have fun.
For the full Boar brand, what's next?
Oh, good question. So we are looking at how we can get our beer out into the marketplace more. It's tough to do in a 3-barrel system. We basically make enough beer for the tap room and maybe 5 or 6 different accounts. Canning, we have a canning line, but most of the packaging goes out the door from inside. So we're looking at possibly contract brewing with some of the other larger breweries, 1 or 2 brands, and then pushing it out.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got some other ideas popping around, but
I mean, just trying to get beer on shelves, right?
Right.
So, there's Plattsburgh's right next to Montreal, so Plattsburgh Craft Beer Cabin. Oh, there's all the New York State beers that I can grab.
Yeah.
Usually it's Evil Twin because that's pretty much they dominate that entire thing.
Okay.
But
Right.
it's there's a lot of good beer in New York State. There's a lot of good beer in Vermont. There's a lot of good beer in Ontario. There's a lot of good beer in Quebec. For these 4 kind of all adjoining states and provinces. There's good
That's
beer.
almost one of the problems with distribution is that there's so much good beer that you have to stand out somehow. So we're working on with a couple of the bigger local breweries on how, if they contract for us, where are we going to put it? You don't want to end up in a big supermarket amongst all the other cans. I mean, there's 1,000 cans there. And our labels might stick out, but so we need to grow in order to to make this thing continue on. So we're working on some things. We also need a bigger pig pen. I mean, it's nice and everything.
The industry has changed since 2016. So when we opened, we were one of 6 breweries in Central New York, and at that point in time, tap rooms were small. And I feel like it was the old idea people would come in, do a flight, grab some beers to go, and that was how it worked.
Yeah.
Bigger tap rooms, more events, more activities on site, because the way you make more money is by selling. Your margins are so much better in the tap room.
Right.
And then COVID hits, and it's more about your outdoor spaces.
Outdoor seating.
Which wasn't, we didn't really look at that when we were looking for a tap room. So, we have kicked around ideas for a second tap room somewhere with more green space, ability to have different activities. And,
you guys sound pretty ambitious, possibly another tap room, or let's say the guy next door leaves, knock down the wall type of thing.
You've always kind of got to look in 5 steps ahead. The industry's going to change again.
Yeah.
Where's it going? How's it going to change? We were looking at the demographic at the Brew Festival last night, and the age group, and it was definitely a 30 and above crowd.
Yeah, I'm 43, so
it's I think 30 might even be a stretch because I think it was a 40.
My 30s were a long time ago.
60 range. So there's a whole demographic of kids, 21 to 35.
How do we get them into craft beer?
That are only drinking seltzers.
Yeah, I've got a 19. So legal drinking age in Quebec is 18, 19 in the rest of Canada. I have a nephew who loves hard seltzers. I'm like, no, dude.
Right.
No. But then there's some breweries that make hard seltzers. So I'm like, oh, I can't tell him no because some places make them. The smoothie sour train's going crazy right now. Then to me, would be a young person's.
Yep. Oh yeah, sours.
Choice, so.
Sours are definitely something you have to have in your lineup. When we were researching breweries in 2015, we went to a brewery, and the only beers they had left were sours. And I had one, and I'm like, I don't know how this place is going to stay open if this is the beer they're serving. And yeah, it shows what I know. Yeah. They're one of the most popular breweries in New York State and have won plenty of awards. But I will say that my palate's changed. I drink sours now more so than I ever have before. It's definitely not my go-to beer. I'm not going to start my day with a sour, but I don't mind them.
I think the whole industry is shifting too. The young kids are drinking sours, and they don't even really know what beer tastes like. And then us older guys that have been drinking IPAs, and I know I'm shifting back to pilsners, lagers, beer that tastes like beer. Like the guy that comes in and says, "What do you have that tastes like beer?"
Yeah, the beery beer, as a friend said. Amazing. Guys, thank you very much today. Really, really appreciate you taking time out of your clearly busy schedule to speak with us about Full Boar today and the festival last night. And definitely, it's to be checked out. New York State has some great breweries. Syracuse is only a couple hours away from Montreal and Toronto, so come on down. Guys.
Easy trip. The borders loosened up. You don't have to arrive Canada any longer.
Well, I had no problem with it personally. I'm just like, did you fill it out? I'm like, I know it's on my passport, dude. You don't have to BS me anymore. So for those who are looking for Full Boar, where can people find you guys?
So Full Boar is located in North Syracuse, New York, 628 South Main Street.
Website, social media?
Oh, yeah, website. www.fullboorbrew.com. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I don't run any of that. Somebody who knows what they're doing does.
Who knows how long?
Thanks,
Twitter
Danny.
will be here.
Yeah. That's why I have somebody behind the camera who runs all that stuff. So, amazing. As for us, all of this is going to be in the show notes. allbeerinside.com is the website. @allbeerinside on all social media. And as I say at the end of all episodes, drink craft, not crap.